All right. All right. You sound like the mom from Bob's Burgers. She's like, all right. Okay, so we are live. I think testing test. Can
Yeah, I think we're
one of
live.
you mute your mics? Because I think I got a little bit of an echo. Okay. Everybody can still hear me? Yeah.
You're a fan because sometimes they can hear my computer fan going.
I
You guys,
think I think it maybe come from RJ.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'll mute myself and then I'll unmute when you guys want me to say something.
Okay, cool. Um, welcome to the Hampton Leftists Roundtable. We have a great panel today. Guys, you know we're streaming 12 hours today from noon to midnight. So we got a couple things we want to talk about for the roundtable discussion. And I want to go ahead and introduce the panel. We have Nick, who you guys know as at Socialist MMA. We have JB and we have RJ. And I think Meg should be joining us pretty soon. So let's go ahead and get started. So I know
Yeah,
one of the,
Jackie's here.
oh, Jackie's here. Let me
Yeah.
see if she pops up. Oh, you know what? They were hidden at the bottom. My bad. All right. And we have Meg, who has just joined us as well, known as Killjoy Meg. And we have Jackie. Hello.
Hey guys.
We are now at the roundtable. Thank you guys for watching so far. We are having a marathon today. Now we got the whole crew with us. RJ, I'll pass it to RJ. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying life. Just spent my day playing 4 hours of tennis, so that's a lot of fun.
Ooh, I love tennis.
Yeah, on clay, so I'm going to be exposed as being a sympathizer for the bourgeoisie. I'm sorry.
RJ be playing tennis and golf.
You better enjoy your golf now before we start taking those golf fields.
I can't say anything
that's
bad
what I
about
call
golf.
for. We need to take golf. Sorry, I love like golf. I get it, man. It's fun. It's a fun game, RJ. But we need to abolish golf. Take the land back. Use that to house homeless people. I mean, I'll let you enjoy it while you have it for now. But that's the end game. That's the end goal for us. So, and this is what because we're gonna talk about this anyway. Anyone like to pretend they are for climate change? Like, we can start with this topic, right? Because I know we want to talk about this. I hope you guys understand that eating the rich, the class war, fighting the class war, is a giant part of what we need to do to fight climate change. Because despite what you hear all the time is, oh, you're using too many straws. You guys need to stop driving. Like, they always attack the ruling class, right? I mean, they always attack the work class. They try to put the climate crisis on us. But the top 10% is responsible for 50% of the global emissions. So we will show the ocean fire. That's what I saw, because that's what they want to talk about now in terms of climate change. I passed it back to Sabby. I know that we want to cover that.
Yeah, I know Afeni wanted to talk about that. I don't see her here. I'm gonna switch to allies just because I want to give a couple minutes to let Afeni join, because I know she did want to speak about the climate change. But so one of the things that came up recently, Hardlands Media actually brought this up when I was on there. They were talking about like, how can white people help in terms of like being like a white ally? When you see like racist things happen to Black people, and sometimes especially that covert racism, which is a little bit more subdued and not as obvious, how can white people help? So I want to open that up to the panel, and I guess we'll start with Jackie.
I knew you were going to say me. It's like the teacher who's like, who's the one kid that acts like they're not paying attention? That's the kid I'm going to go for. I knew you were going to pick me. Okay. The best way, it's really simple. Just listen and don't talk, and be there for people when they're going through shit. We don't need white people to champion for us. We need white people to listen when we champion for ourselves. Because we were always talking, but there's usually, and it's almost always a white dude who jumps in and is like, I'm going to speak for these people. And it's like, nah, man, shut up and let me talk. I can talk. So can Nick. He can really talk, but you know. That's it.
Okay, Jackie, well said. I agree. Next, let's get Meg's opinion on this. How do you feel about this, Meg?
You know, I'm actually really glad that you brought up this question, because this is actually a conversation that JB and I were having just the other day about the fact, like, I, over this past year, was, I've been a substitute teacher for the last couple of years, but this past year, I was asked to be a long-term sub because I didn't have an English teacher. And I have a degree in English, so they asked me to be the long-term sub for that class. And I agreed. And some of the classes I was teaching, a couple of them are with students that struggled a bit more. One of the class was majority Black. The other was majority Hispanic. And I asked JB about this the other day, because a few of the boys in the majority Black class, they would often talk to each other using the N-word. And they would talk to each other calling each other monkey. And I wasn't sure exactly how to handle that situation, because, you know, especially being, you know, a white teacher, I didn't want to be seen as a racist authoritarian figure to them. You know, that's not how I want to come across, and that's not how I want to treat them. That's not what I want to do. I want to treat everyone equally. I want to treat them with respect. And I did my best, like, especially with some of my white students who would use the R word, I would call them out. I would call out my white student. Like, I had one white student who, because we were reading a book that talked about Black and brown students, and I brought up Tamir Rice, she walked out of my classroom. So it's not easy. Yeah, JB, she walked out of my classroom. I see that look on your face. But so this small group of Black students, I would always ask them, please just stop talking to one another like that. And so I brought this up to JB because I wanted to know what was the right thing to do. And so I think that's one of the things. Like, I don't expect anyone to teach me. Like, it's up to me to learn myself. But I think that it's important to ask people of color when it's a problem for students of color. Like, okay, how do I handle this situation? What's the best way for me to be a good ally? It's important for us to ask. We shouldn't be expecting to be educated on these issues. We should educate ourselves. But we should be willing to ask, okay, how can I be a good ally? Be willing to speak up and ask. Don't just say, oh, you know what, this is the way I can be an ally, because guess what, you're probably wrong. And you're probably just making the matters worse. Be willing to ask questions. And I feel like and I appreciate JB for being someone I could come to and ask that question to. And so I think that's something I can bring to it. It's just be willing to ask good questions. Be willing to absorb that information, take it in, and apply it the best that you can.
Well said, Meg. I just want to give a quick shout out to S. Cunningham in the chat. Thanks so much for the super chat. I'm going to go to Nick on this one, because I know, Nick, you and I, we were talking about this before, about even in like leftist space, how like white leftists can operate like more as an ally for Black leftists. So I want to get your opinion on this as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because me and Affinity was actually talking about this earlier on, and there was someone who made a TikTok that was so beautiful that we had to share it on our show, because she, in a very eloquently put way, outlined the white savior complex that a lot of people do. We just heard what Beg was talking about, and what was the important point that she made, that she showed through her actions. She talked to JB, and she learned what JB said, and she used that to become a better ally. That's how it's done. That's why we got Meg here. She understands how to be an ally. What white saviors do, they tell us to fall in line because we got the plan. We know what's better for your community. And any pushback that we give to them, they see as an attack on unity. So we're the problem. Black leftists become the problem when we call out anti-blackness on the left. Instead of actually acknowledging the problem, they rather have that false peace. And that TikTok, I don't want to butcher her words, but she eloquently put that out. Where if you want to be ally, you actually have to listen and back us up, because we know what's struggle. And if there's any debate and disagreement, black leftists have that among themselves. Let the Palestinians have that among themselves. But how can you interject and then you have the authority on some issues? It's beyond me, and that's the height of arrogance. But that's all I have to say on that. Back to you, Sabrina.
That's a good point, Nick. There's something that Matt Peterborg just put in the chat, and he said that white saviors center the issues around themselves. And I just want to add, thank you for that, Matt, because that's important. Chris Richards, you guys may be familiar with him on YouTube as well. That's something that he's brought up. And when he was talking about police brutality and getting people out to protest, and he was asking other white people to stand in solidarity with Black people. But then he also said, when you go there to protest, don't take over, don't make it about you, but go there in solidarity for Black people. I want to get JB's opinion on this as well.
Yeah, so as far as being an ally, to be an ally means that you're working in tandem with the person you're allied with. It doesn't mean you take over, right? And so, especially when you are trying to do the assisting, be the assistant, but do not be the overseer, so to speak. We've had plenty of overseers in our lives. We don't need another one in this space. One thing that I appreciate is that when you have allies that are unapologetically anti-racist, and this is what we need. We need you to be unapologetic in your anti-racism. And this does involve some hard conversations. It's not easy by no means. But what you're doing is you're pushing equality and equity and justice every single time you try to change the minds of others. That is not a duty of ours, but is a duty of yourselves. So what makes a great ally is someone that sticks up for us when we're not in the room. And it also someone who tries their best to understand from our perspective, because this is an issue of empathy that we need to settle. And especially with leftists that are white, there has to be a humbling of, just because you're on the left doesn't mean you have the answers, because therefore you may know what it's like to be on the left, but you do not know what it's like to be Black on the left. And so this is one of the reasons why we say, just take a listen, just pause and hear what we have to say on the subject. Consult us. There's plenty of us on Twitter, and our DMs are open. If you have a question, come directly to us. And I just want to say this to all of our allies that are white on the left. thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for being with us and supporting us. And thank you for allowing us, not allowing, I don't want to use that word, but thank you for being in your stillness and in your peace and quietness while we speak. Because this is what we've been trying to do, and we appreciate it because there's a whole world out there that doesn't want to hear us when we speak. In fact, uh, they will prop up the Don Lemons and the Zerlina Maxwells and the Joyanne Reeds way before they ever prop us up because they don't want to hear what we have to say. And so we just appreciate what uh, you outline with us and standing to the side while we speak our truth.
Well said, JB. I want to give a shout out to Gene and Colin for the super chats. Thanks so much. RJ, what's your take on this?
I mean, the first part really is just to listen. Listen to not only the traumas, but the triumphs of what Black people in the Black community go through. If you have questions, it's always advised, it's always a good thing to ask, even if you may feel it's controversial, because if you're genuine in your question, we may be upset, but at least we'll take the time to explain to you our position. And then it's also your own obligation and duty to do your own research as well. And then we can have these conversations about some things that you may be confused with or that you may not know. That way, when you go back into your space, you can then preach people in your community about things saying, well, what's going on in the Black community in your eyes isn't that way. And I know that because I know individuals and I've talked to them and they've educated me on said subject. To me, that's really the best way to be a white ally, especially in this time period now. And you've seen tons of great examples like that with the Black Lives Matter protests that happened last summer. You had great conversations that were going on, and you had a lot of solidarity. And that's what you can keep doing and continue on doing. That's all I have to say.
Can I add one thing
Mhm.
quickly? Because I want to back up what JB said, and I strongly agree with this. We have obviously a lot of appreciation for the real white allies. And this is a point I had to make all the time. And this is a crucial point. White allies, if you're a true white ally, you know when we go on a tangent about the white left that we're not talking about you. You know you're not the target of the people we're attacking. So if you are one of the people that consider yourself a white ally, but you're like, oh, why you guys already yelling about white people? You centering yourself. That's what we mean when you say you centering. Why does it have to be about you? See, I do that to weed you guys out. Because I know that people like Meg, I know a lot of my friends, they're not gonna get offended when I call out what I see what happens out of the white left. So I use that to weed the real weak allies out, while the strong allies know what we're saying and they still have our back. I'll pass it back to you, Stabby. I just want to add to that point.
Can I add something as well? And this is coming from those of us who are LGBTQ. Just because you may be part of the LGBTQ community does not give you license to speak over or speak in replace of us because you also experience some type of oppression. This is something that we also need to work on. Just because I'm gay does not mean that I have to speak for women. I need to be an ally for women and give them the floor because it is their floor that they need to speak on. So I'm talking about it from my perspective, and I wanted to marry those two with if you're a gay white ally, the same thing. So just want to preface that by our trial and tribulation of being oppressed does not give us license to be what we don't want to be for other marginalized groups.
Sammy, can I add on to that?
Yep.
So real quick, I kind of want to add on to what JB was saying, that especially, like, yeah, sure, he can't speak for women, but I can't speak for Black women as a white woman. Because I know I have a very privileged experience as a woman that Black women not experience it, or even other women of color. And I am fully aware of that fact. Like, if you're enjoying the privileges of white feminism, you're not a feminist. You're not. White feminism is not feminist because you don't acknowledge other women, the plight of other women. So let's just make that very clear. If you're a if you are engaging in white feminism, you're not a feminist. And you don't have to be white in order to engage in white feminism, just so we're clear. But also what RJ was kind of saying about, like, having very difficult conversations. That is important as well. Like, I know I have a brother who's in law enforcement. And so it's been last year was very difficult. We had a hard relationship last year because he's in law enforcement, and I had to, it was very difficult because some of those conversations, he thought I was calling him racist, which I wasn't, but he was engaging in conversations that were not good. He was making points that were not good. And we have to be willing to call that shit out. But I think what's important too is that we're not calling out, but rather calling in. When you call somebody out and you shame them, they're less willing to listen to you. When you call them in and say, okay, here's how I perceived what you said. This is what I thought was hurtful. And here's where you were wrong. They're much more willing to listen to you. So don't call out, call them in.
Well said, Meg. One of the things I want to add is one of the worst things I think you can do is being silent. And I'll give you some examples of that. If you're sitting at the table with your friends or family and everybody's white and somebody starts throwing around the N-word, start saying some racist things, and everybody just laughs it off and you just laugh it off too, even though you know it's wrong and you don't like what they say and you stay silent, that's part of the problem. It's easier to be silent. It's one of the easiest things you can do. Just keep yourself out of it. And sometimes what people will come back and say is that, well, I'm not racist because I have a Black friend. That doesn't mean anything, by the way, because you can have a Black friend and still not like Black people. I've seen that. So please stop using that excuse. It doesn't fall well. Just don't. But even if you don't have Black friends or family members and you hear your friends making these little comments, say something. Because I was talking to Kit Cabello from Hardlands Media about this just a couple days ago. And I said, like, you have to speak up. It means a lot more because Black people, we talk about this. We can do it anytime. We're going to stand up for ourselves, right? But it actually means a lot more when another white person says it to another white person. So that's something I think that we got to, like, you have to stop being silent just because you don't want to deal with the conflict or you don't want the repercussions or because it's someone that you know or is close to you and you just don't want to get involved with that. You can't stay silent. I want to give a shout out to Colin in the chat for the super chat. He said, if you're a Black immigrant, we should stand in solidarity with ADOS because there are certain privileges that we have that ADOS don't have. That's also important to bring up. I know my experiences are very different from my friends that are Black immigrants. We don't have the same experience. But basically, the point that we're trying to get across is you got to speak out against this stuff, man. And it's not easy to do. And yes, like your friends or whatever may get mad at you for doing so, but you can't just let black people be the ones to be left there to fight for ourselves. That's actually, if you think about that logic, if we applied that logic to the civil rights movement, it wouldn't have worked, because there were white people who marched along with Dr. King and fought for civil rights for black people. So that's something that I think is important. Anyone else have anything else to add?
JM wants to know, what is ADOS?
Oh, my bad. American Descendants of Slavery.
I think I just forgot what I was going to say. Rats. I hate when that happens. Oh, you were asking any other thoughts? What was I going to say? I hate that.
You pulled a Sabrina.
Yeah. But yeah, I just want to say I completely agree with everything that you were saying, and it's important for us to have these difficult discussions, no matter what, because it's just like, oh, I forgot who, I think it was it Martin Luther King who said it? The time is always right to do what is right. So just because someone doesn't say it around a black person doesn't mean it's not right, and it doesn't need to be called out. So the time is always right to do what is right.
Agreed. There's a comment in the chat. This is really interesting. Kat said, thoughts on what Daryl Davis, a black man who has made many friends of the KKK to get them to drop out of the organization. Some people agree with what he's doing and others don't. Thoughts? I want to open that up to the panel.
Didn't Tim Black just do a video about this guy?
I think so.
I didn't watch it, but I haven't had time yet. But I don't. Does anyone know what he said about it?
I don't have any problem with it. I thought the point of our movement was to win. Right? There's a lot of different theories on that. Some people said you shouldn't be focusing on white racists. You probably should be focused on non-voters. But if you're successful, I'm not going to argue against success. Right? I mean, if you're wasting a ton of time and you got a conversion rate of like 2%, maybe you should be spending less time talking to racists and more time talking to ordinary people. But if they out there flipping KKK members, do what you gotta do. You gotta understand, A1 area is different. Because what I hate is when people in blue areas, deep blue areas, talk to people like me who live in red state. Like, oh, you shouldn't talk to conservatives. Like, what? Every area got a different game plan. Maybe he's surrounded by KKK people. That's his game plan. That's my thoughts. I think we're supposed to win, right?
My thoughts on this is, do what you got to do. If you feel like this is a working angle you can get for whether it's politically or whether it's through organizing, then do what you got to do. And if it works, it works. We all take notes, and then we could use your notes and try to convert some other people who are controversial. So what he's doing in his area, converting people, getting people to understand that an ideology is bad, and also converting them over to the left and to really get rid of their racist ways, then it's going to be beneficial. So that's just my take. And if you have a problem with it, then maybe you should understand where he's coming from. And if you still have a problem with it, then just leave him alone. Let him continue to convert and just don't say anything.
Jackie?
I don't really have anything to say about it. I don't know who that person is. As far as like the tactic, if it works, go ahead. I agree with Nick and RJ. Like, if it's working, do it.
Yeah, the one thing I was taught growing up was that defeating your enemy is great, but it's an even greater victory if you're able to make your enemy into a friend. And if you are able to turn them over, so to speak, and that they are able to turn from being a racist to an anti-racist, and then they also now have the ability to convert others, just imagine what that can do. Just imagine. So it's not teaming up with racists, but it's changing them into anti-racists. So truth be told, I applaud what he's doing. Could I do it? I don't know. I don't think so. I could. But if he can, by all means. And if you're somebody who's black that can do that, great. If you're somebody that's white that can do that, even better, because you identify with them. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
Well said. There are a lot of comments in the chat about reparations. I don't want to get too deep into it because we do have a reparations stream right after this one, right, Meg and Jackie? I think that one's right after this one. Let me check.
No, that's
it's
mine.
at 7. Yeah, it's RJ and then the reparations.
Okay. So,
What time zone you mean, Meg? Just to be clear.
oh gosh, I keep forgetting.
Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, because I'm 7. I got my show at 7 Central, so you made me panic a little bit. But proceed.
6 Eastern, real people time.
Yeah, guys.
No. Real people time is Pacific.
Hey, I admit my time is fake as fuck. No, I live in a flyover state.
Spell specific.
CALIFORN. I mean, to be honest, like, I'm not just a coastal elitist. I'm specifically a Southern California elitist. Like, you can take the rest of the state. Do we really need Sacramento? No.
Oh, Jackie.
Jackie.
Okay.
Gosh, Jackie, you are the worst right now. What in the world?
I'm just me, man. You know what? Rome isn't here. Somebody's got to be real with y'all. I'm just me, okay? I'm sick of hiding. Y'all are all like, let's
She's like,
here
I am.
Nah, fuck that. I'm in California. That's the real time. And California, specifically Southern California, because nobody gives a shit about Sacramento. Talking to you, Pat. Just so you know, talking to you. Anywho.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but I'm sure
boy.
Sabby has some questions. Go ahead.
Oh boy.
But it leads me into our next topic, which is climate change. I'm sorry, I'm still in the coastal elite thing.
Does it make it better that I'm specifically like I'm regionalizing it? It's specifically Southern California elite.
Yeah. So
Savi, before we move on, can we just answer this one question by JM, who
Yeah.
says, "What does solidarity look like with Trump voters or the Bernie right?"
Ooh.
On what issue?
Good question.
Because we have different issues.
Mhm.
And here's the thing. We need Medicare for all. We need to do something about climate change. Those issues affect every single human. Climate change affects every human on the planet. Medicare for all affects everyone in the nation. So am I willing to march with someone who may not like me to get those things? Are we going to get those things? Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how that's controversial. Like, we can deal with if you're talking about on race, let's have that conversation. That's a completely different conversation. But if we're talking about things like Medicare for all, climate change, to me, and especially like Bernie even brought this up in his platform, these issues disproportionately affect the Black community. So we can't ignore those issues to talk only about issues that we consider Black issues. That's a Black issue. Having a planet to live on, having the planet be habitable, I consider that a Black issue. Being a Black person who lives on the planet. So let's maybe deal with that. And then once we deal with that, let's get some health care. Once we get some health care, reparations.
Awesome.
So that's how I see it.
Agreed. I want to reference this real quick also before we move on, because Steve brought up a good point, and Nick, I'm gonna direct this one to you. He said, "Isn't that exactly what Fred Hampton did? Reached out to poor racist whites and convinced them to join class warfare."
Yeah, and this is what me and JB Font actually had a conversation with Jimmy Dore about when we told Jimmy how Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers required the white allies that was allying with us to be hardcore anti-racist and live anti-racist.
Yep.
So if you are actually dragging people who have problematic views on race, and then you get them to like do security at Black Lives Matter protests, if you have them actually speaking on black issues, if you have them actually speaking for reparations, it's like I can't control what goes on in your head. And this is more of a personal preference. I don't care, to be honest. If you advocating for issues that will help my community, if you're actually doing stuff that will take care of my neighbors and my family, that's all I can ask for. Because at the end of the day, I think even well-intentioned white people got some thoughts that come in their head that I don't want to know about when it comes to race. Let's be real. Let's be real. So no one's going to be perfect on this issue. So the best I can do is ask for you to advocate against anti-racism. That's what Fred Hampton did. So, and to Jimmy's credit, he said, yeah, I acknowledge that. And I think that's what he would try and do when he talks to Magnus. Because Magnus, as far as I'm concerned, and based on what I've seen, he literally talked to white people and trying to get them to be anti-racist. Now, that's what the entire group does. I'm not into them. I don't know, but Magnus himself advocate for anti-racism, and that's what Fred Hampton and them required people to do. Mm-hmm. So that's what me and JB broke down to them. It depending on the ally you're talking to. We need you to not just do that thing where you're like, oh yeah, we need to support black right. No, you need to call out people who are racist, and that's what we need, and that's what Fred Hampton required of his allies. Anyone want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so during that interview, the correction was that Fred Hampton did not work with racists in order to build the Rainbow Coalition. They actually had to denounce any type of racism in order to unite with Fred Hampton. They had to do that first, and they did that. Now, some of the young patriots, some who were racist, they left. They were like, you know what? We're out. And so, that's when the rest of the young patriots were like, all right, see ya, fuck you. You're racist, so we don't care about you anymore. Even some Black Panthers even left because they felt, oh, we don't want to work with them. But the fact is that they had to denounce their racism first. And just to Nick's point, if you're white and you are advocating for reparations, for defunding the police so that we aren't targeted like we are, all these different things, then you're not racist because you actually care about what we need. So as far as working with racists, they don't want to work with us and we don't want to work with them, so it's never going to happen. So that's just to give you guys a synopsis of what the actual history is. And I also defer to our history buff RJ because he knows just a little bit more nuance than I do. Well, probably a lot more nuance, but yeah, I defer to him as well.
Oh, you want me to talk now?
That would help.
I mean, are you RJ? Like, what's up?
Like, come on, Comrade Curls.
Oh, jeez.
Damn Generation Zygo, man.
Yeah, because I remember going on like a roundtable talking about this after the controversy, and it was basically like a lot of like slandering going around, like a lot of misinterpretations about what's going on. So yeah, I co-signed everything you, JB, and Nick said about it, and what people didn't realize, specifically at the time, was the two litmus tests of being anti-capitalist versus being anti-racist. And the problem in today's concept is that we don't really talk enough about how to work with individuals versus in the political system versus outside the political system. You have some people on the left who didn't agree with working with those individuals in the political system, yet some that wanted to in terms of organizing. So there's a lot of clarifications I've made based on that. But yeah, based on everything you said so far, I agree on that. So that's kind of all I have to say.
I'm gonna pass it to you in a second, Jackie, because I think you were trying to say something, but I just want to welcome Afeni. Afeni's here. Yay!
Hey y'all, sorry, I took a weed nap. My bad. I super apologize.
Talk about making an introduction.
But Jackie, you were gonna say something, I thought.
It was based on a comment, but that comment has long passed, so I'd have to find it again. Somebody said something that I wanted to touch on, but yeah, that was a while ago. So go ahead with the Feeney and I'll tell you if I can find it.
Okay. I'm gonna give a shout out to Colin really quick. Thanks for the super chat, Colin. Colin said, I would rather work with a racist who wants universal health care versus Biden, who already told us he doesn't and he is supposed to like black people. I'm gonna go to Afeni. Any comments?
So again, I said it earlier on the stream. I'm gonna say it again. I don't work with racist people. I don't work with people that don't respect or accept my existence. But at the same time, if Mitch McConnell and the Republicans woke up one day and was like, you know what, fuck it, we want to do Medicare for all, I'm gonna completely support that. Like, why would I not support libertarian politics? Like, I don't support politicians, but I support policies. So if there's a certain, side of the same corporate oligarchy party that wants to go ahead and give me some liberation, I'm going to support the liberation. I may not support all the racism. I may not support all the white supremacy that they support, but I would definitely support if they decide to give out some affordable housing. If they decide to, increase food benefits for people that are starving, in the richest country in America, possibly then. But other than that, if you're a white person, you have to center anti-racism to even be around me, because honestly, every white person is racist until proven otherwise. Until you prove yourself to me as an anti-racist white person, and honestly, no white person can be completely not racist just because y'all are born like that. Let's just be real. But if you're actively working to dismantle white supremacy and your white identity every day, and really trying to, I guess not trying not to benefit from your white privilege over other marginalized people that are within your circle, that's the only time. That's the only time I will accept a white person truly into my circle as an abolitionist that are super pro-black. My organization personally, there's only 2 white people, 2 out of all the people that are in our organization organizing, because sometimes white people their whiteness takes up too much space. And if you're not able to control that or understand what it looks like when your whiteness is taking up too much space and causing harm in a black space, then, you're not the type of white person I like to be around. But hopefully your motherfucking ass supports Medicare for all, and you can do that on your side of America. Period.
And can I just quickly reframe the question real quick? Because the idea that we can never work with racists. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is the party of white supremacy. They're the one that propping up ICE. They're the one that propping up the police more. They're the one that bombing brown people. So how do you square those 2 arguments? We should never work with racists. We should vote for the Democratic Party. How do you square that? I'll pass it back to Sabby. I just want to have that quick thought.
Yeah, agreed 100%. That kind of leads me into climate change. And Afeni, I know you really wanted to speak about this. One thing I want to say really quick is that back during the Democrat primary debates, this was one area where I felt like I wish Bernie would have said this a little bit more when he started talking about climate change, because the question that they asked was about race or whatever. And Bernie started talking about climate change. Now, of course, the moderator interrupted him. You know how they do what they do. But what Bernie was trying to say and trying to get across is that who is going to be impacted the most by climate change, right? Black people, because of where we live. If you look at the cities in this country, where do most Black people live, right? So unfortunately, it didn't come across that way when he was trying to say it, but I wish he would have just said that, to get that message across. But I want to pass it to Afeni, because I know you have some things you want to say about climate change.
I was going to say that national records were broken in countries all over the globe over this past week. In Finland, they had a high of 89 degrees Fahrenheit. In Moscow, 94 degrees. Belarus, 96 degrees. Estonia, 94 degrees. Like, the earth is burning, y'all. The ocean was literally on fire. And then on top of that, you see this country, the West Coast is literally always aflame at some point during the year. So it's just like, in my mind, if we all know that race and climate change are like literally so intersectionally linked, we know that a lot of the people that will be affected by climate change and by mass climate migration are Black and brown people, Black and indigenous people that live on coastal cities or live on islands. Where the fuck do you think they're going to try to come to these xenophobic ass, racist ass, white colonizing ass countries that we have in the Northern Hemisphere? Instead of that, because, since y'all don't want to be anti-racist, at least we can worry about the fucking climate. Instead of that, we should definitely be doing mass investments into green infrastructure. Even this last infrastructure bill that Joe Biden put out, there was hardly any real like addressing to the problems that, infrastructural racism and all of these things will do. Like there was no like real funding towards like the ways in which we need to build green infrastructure around certain areas. So, me personally, I'm tired of not talking about climate change enough, like as Black people, because I think we really don't realize how much, number one, our environments are already fucked up. We already have more asthma and more everything else than, white people do. So if we think about that and then we compound that with the fact that we already deal with all of the fucking pollution because we live in the cities, we live in the most polluted areas, so we have to start talking about climate change because our lives literally depend on it. Like our lives, our survival literally depends on it. So, climate change is literally just caused by greedy ass capitalism, and capitalism is slavery, capitalism and genocide, capitalism is misusage of land. And that's what we've been saying. So we have to start talking about climate change more because our window of opportunity to get out of this problem is shrinking. And honestly, we're already past the point to where greenhouse gases are going to continuously be released out of, the ice caps anyway. Like the warming agents are already being released out of the ice caps. We cannot reverse that. But what we can do is drastically change course and what we are doing now to save the planet. Because right now, this shit is not fucking enough. And the earth is going to shake our asses off first before it actually destroys itself. So that's what I was going to say about that. But anybody else want to add some commentary? Climate change makes me very passionate.
I said, don't get me started.
Sami, I actually have a point that I want to bounce off of from what Afeni just said, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Afeni, you said very clearly that people of color live in polluted areas. But let's be clear about something. It's not that Black people live in polluted areas. It's that, because someone keeps on mentioning redlining, so let's talk about redlining, is that they're polluting your neighborhoods. It's not that you live in polluted neighborhoods, it's that they are polluting your neighborhoods. This is not passive tense. They are polluting. They are putting those power plants in those dumps, the dumps and wherever, they're putting them in Black and brown neighborhoods. And why is that happening? Because that's where the low-income neighborhoods are. And guess who lives in mostly impoverished neighborhoods? Black and brown people. So they're putting it into impoverished neighborhoods, and that's why you see high levels of asthma, high levels of cancer in those neighborhoods because of that pollution. So let's be clear on that fact that redlining has a lot to do with pollution in those neighborhoods. So let's be very clear on that fact. And that kind of addresses, someone kept on saying, talk about redlining. So I think that's a great way to bring redlining into this conversation. And also the fact that Afeni mentioned that, the ice caps are melting, the tundras are burning, and you think COVID is bad. There are diseases in that tundra, in that ice, that when that melts, all those viruses will be released. You think this pandemic was bad? Just wait for the next one for a disease that's thousands of years old that we don't know how to deal with. So
That
just
might
wait
not
for
even
that.
be meant for human beings. That might not even come from a human being.
Right?
Yeah, I want to mention someone said in the chat, Gryphon said, just like Flint's water. Yeah, so I can assure you what happened in Flint, Michigan would not happen in Beverly Hills. This would not happen in, Lexington, Massachusetts. So that's something I want people to think about. Let's check in with RJ. RJ, your thoughts on climate change?
Yeah, and also just add on because I am from Michigan, so I know about what happened in Flint, and it was completely terrible, disrespectful to the Black community. And the crazy part is that GM they got the clean water after they told Governor Rick Snyder, "Hey, our parts are rusting. Give us the clean water." While they kept the poor people and the Black people, they get the shitty water. So we're still, and by the way, the Flint water still isn't clean, so we still have to deal with that shit. And on my show last week, I covered an article that showed up by the New York Times that showed that Native Americans are suffering incredibly terrible in Alaska right now in terms of climate change. Like one Native American tribe, they requested to have a new school built or to have repairs done, or even to be relocated because the permafrost, which is a layer a couple of feet under the surface, which is typically frozen during incredibly cold climates, is now thawing out. So the actual infrastructure in which you build a school and which it sits on, the foundation is moving and it's making the building almost inhabitable. Not only because of flooding, because of the infrastructure as well. And the federal government said, "Hey, fuck off." They didn't even adhere to their requests, and so they're also running out of water there, running out of drinkable water there. The wells are running dry, so they have to import from other places across the state, or from other places across the country to get water, which costs a lot of money. So that's something that we have to deal with as well. And also, Meg is right, talking about how climate change could affect the climate in terms of diseases that may happen. Like, the Earth looks at us as the virus. We're the fucking virus. They're trying to fucking kill us the more we try to kill the planet. So, also, like JP always says all the time, J motherfucking P, hey, if we want to we have to save ourselves in order to save the planet, because the planet's going to be here. They're trying to get rid of us. That's why I love that old George Carlin quote when he talks about this as well. So that's also too, the salmon. That's something very interesting as well. So in Washington, I covered this. I talked about it 3 years ago for a college thesis, talking about what's going on with this different type of Chinook salmon in Washington State. So due to the increase of climate change, the earth temperature is rising, especially the sea level and water temperatures rising, it makes it inhabitable for salmon, because salmon has to have a certain temperature, I believe, like 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And then if it increases a couple more degrees, it makes it inhabitable. And it makes it difficult for not only for salmon to survive and live in a certain area, but for also to reproduce. So, and also that's also due because of humans with overfishing. So that's another situation to talk about. But climate change is something that we definitely should advocate for more. And, since we're on the topic, I'm really disappointed in like the Sunrise Movement for simping and co-opted by Joe Biden. So look how big of a fucking cuck you guys are, especially one of the leaders. Like, one of the leaders during the Biden campaign said, "Oh, look, Uncle Joe allowed me to be in the administration. I can make some change." And Joe Biden's like, "Fuck you, I'm just using you." So, climate change, I'm with the video on that. That's something that I'm very passionate about as well. Those are all my takes so far. If I remember something else, I'll let you guys know.
Well said. JB, your thoughts?
Yeah, the fact that climate change is still somewhat of a divisive issue is, number one, sad, and number two is a waste of time. The fact that we are actually debating it, because climate change is a objective fact. And here's the funny part: the fact that we are missing out on so much opportunity to upgrade our infrastructure is sad. China right now is kicking our ass when it comes to things like mass transit. I think they have somewhere like close to like I think it's 260,000 miles of track, something like that, or they're on their way to that much track. We only have like what 260 miles of track. So it's crazy how they are implementing so many different things and they're building up their infrastructure. And yet here we are still dependent on fossil fuels. Like, are you kidding me? And okay, so I know a lot of people, hate the American elitism type of framing, but I'm gonna use it really quick if y'all don't mind. This is America, right? Why in the hell are we still sending our young men and women over to another country to die to protect oil fields when we actually can use our resources to, implement climate change policy so that we can stop, number one, having people die, two, stop giving money to the military industrial complex, and three, save our motherfucking asses. What the fuck are we doing? Like, what in the hell are we still dependent on foreign oil for? Why in the hell are we badgering Venezuela? Because if we didn't have dependence on foreign oil, we wouldn't be trying to do a coup in Venezuela anyway. Fuck you, Juan Guaido. So my thing is, like, why are we doing this? It's all because of what Miss Finney said, capitalism. Because they're focused on the short-term profits, not on the long-term gains. Here's the thing. When it comes to investing, the best investments are long-term gains. The best investments are the ones that are going to keep us alive. And so this whole deal, like, the ocean is literally on fucking fire. Have you guys not noticed in the Gulf of Mexico? Look on Twitter right now. The ocean is on fire, and you have boats that are literally trying to pour water on fire that's on fire. I can't even explain it right. It's so stupid. So this is the crazy part about what's going on. And people like myself, I'm millennial generation, right? The ones who are clearly really screwed are Afeni and RJ. They're the ones who are really screwed because they have to live through this shit. And let me tell you something. If you really truly care about what's going on with anyone that is young, look into a child's eyes. If you have a niece, a nephew, a grandkid, someone, look into their eyes. And I want you to tell them, I failed you. I failed you. And how would that feel? That would be crushing, wouldn't it? This is why we're talking. This is why a general strike is absolutely necessary. This is why mutual aid is absolutely necessary, because these are things that lead us to the policies that would take care of these climate change issues so that they can have a future, so that we can say we succeeded. Because even if we don't see it ourselves, we can hand that baton over to them and they can take it and run with it. I'm out.
Now, I just want to say very quickly, like, according to capitalism, at least Americans' capitalism, we need 3% GDP growth per year. Gross domestic product needs to grow 3% a year. So that means in 24 years, we need to double our production, our commodification, and whatever resource we're commodifying. Where the fuck is that shit going to come from? Capitalism is about infinite growth on a finite planet with finite people and finite resources. So if it's literally not going to work for the planet, then why the hell are we still fighting for? Why are we still holding it? Like, what is the plan? I can tell you what the plan is, y'all. The rich people are doing fucking space exploration right now. So if you really think, especially as a white working class person that is racist, I just have to bring it back to this. If you really think that when the fucking earth starts burning and all the rich people go to Mars, you think you're going with them? You're not. So y'all better get on board with the fucking climate change stuff. All you fucking right wingers, climate change is real. It is happening, and all of us are going to die, and all the rich people are going to be on whatever fucking planet they decide to create for themselves with their capital that you don't have access to. So, like, come on now, y'all.
I think Nick wanted to go after Finney.
So yeah, I also want to just add on what Afeni and JB was saying. There's a sense of urgency because apparently Afeni's and RJ generation is screwed, but people don't need to understand this. People are screwed right now. Like there are people that are living the consequences of climate change right now. There are communities in the Pacific that rely on fishing because the sea levels are rising. You got a lot of places that their crops are being destroyed because they're being salted. The toxicity in the ocean is getting so high, so the fishing communities can't rely on fishing as their primary market as much anymore. And the issues of climate change are most likely impacting disenfranchised community in our state. Because I cover state violence, I cover foreign policy, and I want to connect all these issues. Our state is poisoning the Black community. And guess who's been one of the only shows that have been covering this? This came out this year. The U.S. military is poisoning the Black community. Guess who? What else is going on? Israel, the apartheid state, is poisoning Palestinian water supplies. These are all results of climate change. Now, you have these rich imperialist states that are driving it more than the military, the U.S. military, the largest polluter in human history. So everyone want to talk about climate change, but no one actually wants to talk about the serious solutions. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, this is where people get uncomfortable. If you look at all the emissions, it's not because people are using straws, plastic straws. This is what they want us to believe. It's the top 1%. It's the corporations. What was the number? I think one of you guys know it. I'm blanking on the top of my head, but it's like the top 1% of corporations are responsible for like 70% of emissions, something crazy like that. Like it's an insane stat.
Three
like,
companies.
Three companies. That worse than I thought it was. It was on the tip of my tongue. Thank you, Meg. But you guys see what I'm saying? Like it's literally the rich that is doing this to the planet. Stop blaming your neighbors. Oh, why are you eating meat, man? You're responsible for climate change. No, bro, it's the giant farms, the big food. Stop punching down and start looking up. So liberals get uncomfortable when you talk about climate change, when you acknowledge the true solution to this problem is slashing the military budget by at least 70%, by eating the rich. Because if you eat the rich, that's the big problem with the climate change is going away. That's why I want to add to it. I don't want to go too long. I can preach on this all day. I pass the baton. Who's next?
I think RJ's. Oh,
wait, RJ wants to go?
Yeah, RJ tagged in.
Yeah, so I think that the crazy part too is that so I'm from Ipsy, so I used to go to my cousin's house to go to school, and in that same general area, there's a sewage treatment plant. And the crazy part is that they would have that thing running and smelling like stank ass early in the morning all the time. And it's like, it's terrible to what they do, especially for the Black community. So it's disgusting. But also, to be more serious, you should check out the film by Michael Moore. I know some people hate him, like him, whatever. That's not the point. But the actual film, Planet of the Humans, really goes into depth about how these big corporations, these big billionaire classes are profitizing off of green energy. And the reason why I do air quotes is because they say green energy, but in terms of how they produce solar panels or produce alternative energy, actually does more harm for the environment than what they're actually selling on. And by the way, like these big corporations actually tried tooth and nail to take down Michael Moore's film. They actually did. They took it down. Then he had to put it back up. So check that out. And also check out behind the scenes, people like Michael Bloomberg, the former vice president, Al Gore, was connected to many of these big elites. So you should check out that film.
Jackie?
I have a couple of things to say. We'll see how many I can remember. So, first of all, I think a lot of people don't realize that when the climate catastrophes start, which they've already started, I mean, the ocean is on fire. That's a good one. When these things start to happen, what's going to happen is, remember when Kamala was like, don't come here, being the daughter of two immigrants. There's going to be a mass migration, because when one community is destroyed, those people have to leave, because parts of the earth are going to become uninhabitable. All of the earth, I say earth, not the US, because all across the globe, places where humans are now living, they won't be able to live. So those humans are going to have to move. Does anybody remember the beginning of things like the Israel-Palestine issue? It was displacement because of basically a situation just like that. That is going to happen globally. You're going to have parts of the country where people can't live, so they have to move to other parts of the country. Those cities, those states are going to say, we don't want you. You don't have jobs. You don't have anything because you just lost everything and you had to just move without even being able to pack up. You had to just come across the border. If you don't have a job online, how are you going to produce money? So they're going to say they don't want you from city to city, from state to state. And then you're going to have it on a national level. You're going to have people in the US immigrating to Canada or to Mexico. And then same thing. Stay out. You told us not to come. You can't come. This shit's going to become really real for a lot of people in their day-to-day, but they don't want to think about that. Also, to the issue of things like straws and bags, nobody ever asked the question, why does my using a straw, a plastic straw, or a bag, what does that have to do with if I throw it away in a trash can, where does it go? You see, because it's the corporations and the government that haven't figured out what to do with it. So it's not your consumption. It's the fact that we have no end game and we just dump it in the ocean, or we send it to China, and China has recently said, no, fuck y'all, deal with your own trash. By the way, a lot of the times we were sitting here blaming China, saying, oh, it's because they have 1 billion people. That's why. No, it's also because we were shipping them literally our garbage. So we should maybe come up with an end game for that. How do we get rid of plastics? And if we can't get rid of plastics in a meaningful way, now we have to have a new discussion. How do we create plastics out of something else? What is an alternative for plastics? But no, they want to put the onus on you. Stop using a straw. You're killing a turtle.
Yeah, but the funny part is that plastic is actually a derivative of petroleum,
Yes.
which means that if we were to stop the wars that were protecting the oil fields and all these wars on about fossil fuels, that means that the production of plastic will actually drop. So ultimately, imperialism is one of the reasons why we have as much plastic as we do as well.
A couple more things to the comments. First of all, thank you for everybody who was supporting us and for the people who helped us out on Ko-fi, because that's not showing up on YouTube. Also, someone said, I'm a social democrat. You can solve climate change while still being pro-capitalism. No, you fucking can't. Because capitalism is what got us in this mess in the first place. Here's a fun fact. This is the other thing, something that I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
People want to sit here and say, like, there are people who are eugenicists who say that, like, there are too many people on the planet. There are not too many people on the planet. You can fit the entire Earth's population in one state in the United States. You don't even need the whole damn country, okay? Everybody can fit in the state of Texas. It's capitalism, our overconsumption. It is letting some people die poor and broke and starving, while some people have more mansions than family members. That is what is killing the planet. So no, you can't be pro-capitalist and save the world, because it is literally capitalists that are ending the world. By the way, again, I'm going to say it one more time for those in the back. The world is not going to end. It is going to become uninhabitable for humans. We are talking our own extinction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm done.
God damn, Jackie.
All right, Jackie.
So I saw someone let that comment, like, oh, here we go.
I think Meg was next, and then Afeni.
I love when Jackie gets fiery. Yes. That's one of my favorite things in the world, to see Jackie get fired up. But so I mean, there are plenty of ways to make packaging that don't require plastic. Let's start there. And also the plastic that does exist, if you look at different ways that they're using plastic to make rugs, to make clothing, just recycling that plastic to make more sustainable fabrics, things like that. Let's use that waste in productive ways. There are ways to do that. Just we do have to be careful not to create more emissions through creating those products too. Because it takes a lot of energy to burn plastic. So we do have to be careful about that. Then I forgot the other point I wanted to make. Oh, so since Jackie and I, we like to talk nerddom here. There is a comic book that I will recommend. It's by, I am struggling on the author's name right now, but the comic book is called We Stand on Guard. It's a mini series, like 6 issues. We Stand on Guard. It's about a future world in which we're having water wars. The United States has run out of water, so they invade Canada to get their water resources. And so the comic book is about a group of freedom fighters in Canada trying to stop the United States from invading Canada further for their water. So go check out that comic book.
It is by Brian K. Vaughan.
Thank you, Brian. I knew it was someone that I liked. Brian K. Vaughan, yes.
Afeni?
You know, there's just so many different things. First of all, to say that you can't dismantle capitalism, like capitalism is literally the exact literally the exact destruction of the earth that we are talking about. Where are we going to get the resources to commodify? Please think about it. We're literally already cracking the earth's crust right now for shit that honestly we don't really even need to survive. We just continuously depend on these things because they make us more money. They make, well, not us, but they make them more money. I guess they're not sustainable, but they are something they can continue to extract, capital from. So that's the reason why we're cracking the earth's fucking crust right now, is because they could not find anything else to commodify on top of the earth's crust. So they decided to go ahead and search below. So please miss me on the capitalism can still survive thing. Like, that's complete bullshit. In America, like, I feel like Nick said this earlier, but America is the #1 polluter on earth. So like between our military, all of our military bases, the ways in which we are, stationed in different countries, whether that's through embassies or whatever, we pollute the most. Americans are literally destroying the earth. It is us. It is our country. While we're sitting up here trying to blame it on everybody else, blame it on fucking China. No, it is us. It is our greed. It is our need for some global market to support this bullshit genocidal ass white supremacist ass country. That is the reason why we are cracking the earth's crust. This same oil is the reason why we are bombing innocent countries right now. It's the same reason why we were in fucking Afghanistan for 20 goddamn years. The reason why we invaded Iraq. None of this shit is for any other reason other than to make us money. To make our country money. And so I guess my question is this, people always ask, like, well, who's going to pay for climate change? Who the fuck is going to pay for the climate disaster that is inevitable? Who's going to pay for that? We're already paying for it. Who's going to pay for healthcare? Well, who the hell is paying to fucking pollute all these black neighborhoods all across the country? Who's paying for that? Our tax dollars are already paying for that. My tax dollars are already funding my oppression and my abuse. Why can't my tax dollars actually fucking fund fixing the earth that I'm inhabiting? And why can't it fucking fund fixing the infrastructure under which I live in this country? Why? The money is there. They've made more than enough motherfucking money. It is all there. The priority is not there. The compassion is not there. The will for them to give a fuck is not there. And that is the reason why I'm so tired of fucking negotiating with these motherfuckers. You cannot negotiate with people that don't even see your existence as something that is valuable to them. If they cannot commodify you, you're not valuable to them. If your fucking net worth is not over a certain threshold, you are not valuable to them. So then what do we do then? Am I supposed to just continue talking to y'all peacefully about how to get my rights back, how to save my earth, how to do all these things, how to dismantle capitalism? I'm supposed to just keep talking to y'all while y'all keep smacking me in my face? I'm supposed to just, please, oppressors, please just give me my liberation. No, fuck that. The earth is burning, and at the end of the day, I'm not trying to go extinct. So what's the next move? Period.
Right.
I think
a couple more things to add, just real quick.
Go ahead.
B-Dots. First of all, I don't think that you're a troll. I think you're just uninformed. And so we're trying to inform you. We're trying to educate you. You said you guys would just become jaded due to American capitalism. It doesn't matter whether it's American capitalism, whether it's Indian capitalism, whether it's British capitalism. Capitalism is the problem. Capitalism as a system puts profit over people. That's how we got here. American capitalism is the one that we know because that's where we live. But even it doesn't matter where. Also, I would like to point out you probably aren't a capitalist, because a capitalist is somebody like Jeff Bezos who owns the means of production. You are a person who doesn't understand what capitalism is and what it does. So I don't think you're a troll.
You want to address this?
You're ill-informed.
He left his comment as well. Sorry, Jack. But he said we need strong social safety nets and a VAT tailored to luxury goods. We can still have capitalism because we want to have innovation. No. How will you respond to that? I'm going to ask Jackie. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'll ask that to Jackie first. I got a lot to say about that, but I'll let you go.
Okay, I'll hit that one up next. Give me that one third. Okay. Second thing is Fred says, tiny thing, but the ocean is on fire because of oil extraction, not climate change. Climate change is exacerbated because of things like, I don't know, pipelines. And when those pipelines burst, which they nearly always do, shit like the ocean catches fire. It's the same thing. The climate change is because of shit that humans are doing because of capitalism, like putting pipelines through sacred land and ruining that land, or putting pipelines in the ocean and ruining the ocean. So it's the same thing. Okay, so the third thing is to address what you just said. You wouldn't need all of that if you just did socialism, because socialism is the workers owning the means of production, and that just solves the problem. And here's the thing. With socialism, when the workers own the means of production, they get together and they say, hey, we could turn a profit, but it'll totally fuck up the environment. And then I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, then we don't fuck up the environment. And then people are going to stand up and say, like, there may be an argument, there may be a fight, but people are going to be like, you know what? All of us have houses. We're all able to pay our bills. We don't need to fuck up the environment to get more money. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, capitalism equals bad.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We're going to go to Meg, and then I'm going to go after Meg.
Right. So 2 points, one to go to follow Afeni, one to follow after Jackie. So Afeni said very clearly, like they always ask, how are we going to afford it? How can we afford to fight climate change? Like, how can we not afford it? This is our survival that we're talking about. This is a crisis that we are talking about. We have to fight it. Like, even our infrastructure right now is an F. How the hell are we going to survive? How can we get anything done with an infrastructure that is scaled at that rates an F? We can't do it. In order to meet the demands, we need, like, Bernie Sanders' Green New Deal, the $16 trillion one that he was proposing, that only, like, gets us up to par. We need to be spending so much more money just to create the infrastructure that we actually need to survive. Mm-hmm. That's just surviving. Because we are not going to be able to mitigate every single problem that climate change is going to create over the next, we only have 9 years left until we start seeing the biggest problems. We're already seeing them now. 113 degrees in Portland? Are you kidding me? That's insane. The fact that the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico is on fire, which I believe is the same area. That was the same area as Deepwater Horizon in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
Same area.
Yeah.
So that's the same area. So now that's 2 crises that have happened in the Gulf of Mexico in the last 10 years. That's insane. We have to spend to defeat climate change. We don't have a choice. This is our survival. Mm-hmm. And also to go off the point that Jackie was saying about the fact that there were the comments that we have to innovate under capitalism. No, you don't. That's fucking bullshit. You can still innovate under socialism. For instance, they always like to say for the Canadian healthcare system versus the American healthcare system, that the American healthcare system has more innovation. No, it doesn't, because in Canada, the TSH test that I had in order to catch the fact that I have congenital hypothyroidism was in Canada 20 years before the United States. One of the foremost centers on heart disease is in Toronto, not the United States, Toronto. So don't fucking tell me that we need capitalism for innovation when we fucking don't. We don't. Because guess what? You can still have an idea under socialism. That's not, capitalism is not the thing that makes that invention possible. You cannot create that thing without people's labor. And that labor, what we're talking about, workers owning the means of production. So you can have an idea, but everyone who helps you make that thing, everyone who helps in that innovation deserves to get paid. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. And Meg,
Agreed.
I just want to point at just one thing. Might I remind you that any type of innovation is actually done by our public colleges and university institutions, and then it is taken by private corporations and then used for profit. So
yes.
Oh, not to mention the fact that private corporations have actually stopped innovation that could have helped. Like, for example, our infrastructure. It's shit because corporations want it to be shit because they profit off of that.
Cuba had, they say that Cuba right now has a cure for cancer. I'm sorry, isn't Cuba a socialist country?
Communist.
And yet they have a potential cure for cancer. Do we have that in the United States? No, we don't. So there goes your whole argument.
Yeah, so I'm going to go and then I'm going to pass it to RJ's after me. One of the things I think everybody, if you can, you should watch this show. It's called The Expanse. And the reason why I bring this up is because everything that we're talking about here in reference to climate change, in that show, those things have already happened. So it's several years into the future and Earth has just pretty much fallen apart. So there's not many people on Earth anymore. And people have Earthers is what they're called. They have migrated to Mars. So there are people living on Mars and they have migrated to the asteroid belt. Now, why this is important is because people that grew up on Mars don't want Earthers to come there because they don't want people from Earth to destroy their planet the way that Earth was destroyed. People that live on the asteroid belt, they are the ones at the biggest disadvantage. And this is important. The asteroid belt has all the resources. They have water and they have oxygen, but the people that live there have the lowest life expectancy and they pretty much live in poverty. What does that sound like to you? They have all the resources, but Earth and Mars take the resources from them and the people living there live in poverty and have a lower life expectancy. So if you get a chance to check out that show, I highly recommend that you do because it shows you the impacts of climate change years into the future. What could happen if we don't do the things that we need to do to try to reverse things in this planet? And I'm gonna pass it to you, RJ.
I do want to talk too about how climate change is really affecting farmers and for really land used for growing food, specifically with fracking, and also too talking about Nestle. So first on fracking, these different type of fracking fluids, which are a complete secret by corporations because they don't want other fracking corporations to know about it. And also too, they all do this in order for to get gas out of the ground. And so when you do these type of fracking fluids that go into the drinking water supply, not only does it affect farmers, but it affects anyone who lives in that area and who relies on the drinking water, then it gets polluted and it gets contaminated. Now, when I talk about Nestle, which is a big water company, and by the way, they pay pennies to the dollar for the actual water. Most of their cost comes from actual packaging for the bottles. And so Jackie knows about the Colorado River being drained out because of so many water companies, and now they're coming to the Great Lakes. I'm from Michigan. I see the water table, especially in the Great Lakes, as well as the water table under the ground, slowly decreasing. And it's also something trouble. And also too, with climate change, the Great Lakes, ever since really the ice age ended around that time, there's a thing called glacial rebound, in which more ice melts, the more the ground recedes back up. So now also too, with humans pumping more water out of the ground, glacial rebound, and also the land coming back up, that also speeds up the process. So now you can have big lakes like Lake Superior or Lake Michigan to be completely cut off from substantial rivers downstream. So now you have more inhabitable land due to not only the natural stuff that happened with the earth, but also being expedited because of capitalism. And one particular instance about Nestle, many of these water companies, is the piping system they use to actually to extract water out of the water table is miles deeper than what farmers use. Think about it. When farmers have wells, it's probably a couple 100 feet deep, or especially if they don't use it for water, for fresh water, for food. These corporations, they're 5 times deeper than the average farmers which they use. So what does this mean? What this means is think of it as this. So my hands are right here. It's probably going to be a rough example. So this is the water table. So if you have a farmer, your pipe is about this low. If you're a corporation, it's even lower. So what does that mean is that when a corporation is sucking water out of the land, instead of the water being flat, the water makes a big deep down. So that means is that when you're a farmer, you want to extract water out, your well is dry, but the big corporation that's making all this water and pumping all the water out, they still have that left. And not only is that making it very difficult to grow food, but it's also drying out the land. So now you go from fertile land used for growing food becoming infertile. So that's what's really fucking up the entire environment. We have to go after these assholes like Nestle, which is completely terrible what they're doing, not only for the environment, but affecting people from really growing their own food. And they also benefit off of this because in many states, they make it illegal to collect your own rainwater. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, and on that note, too, someone put in the chat that cop, and they were talking about Kamala Harris, they called her Cop Mala. James Root said this. Cop Mala said the new wars will be over water and resources. And that I want to transition into our last topic, which is Kamala Harris. And I'm going to start with you, Nick, because I know this is your favorite person.
It always cracks me up because there's a what's her name? Shantae. She's like the queen of the K Hive. She's like obsessed with me. So the more I make them mad, the more I want to piss off K Hive and Kamala Harris. I wanted to bring this up because I saw this story. Let me see if I can find it. It seemed like the establishment now realizes that they're planning, and I remember me and Jackie, we had a lot of discussions about like what the Democratic Party plan was, and it's kind of obvious that they were trying to set Kamala up for 2024. But give me a minute, guys. I'm gonna dig and find the story. I literally just had it, but now they were like, "Yo, Kamala, we still think she could win like in 2024." Now they're always trying to repair her image, but now there's a new story that just came out where they were like, we don't know if Kamala is gonna win in 2024. Here it is. It said Democrats fear Kamala Harris can't beat any Republican in 2024, including Trump. So now we have Joe Biden and his team leaking against Kamala Harris. So when you see a story in the Hill that pretty much talk about Kamala Harris incompetence, someone the establishment loves, those stories are not written on accident. I mean, the stories are well sourced, and they have a source from the Biden administration. So the Biden team is leaking against Kamala. And before I proceed, I just want to kind of get you guys' thoughts on this. I'll start with RJ. I don't want to be on the spot, but what's your initial reaction to like the Biden team leaking against Harris and the fact that like she managed to sink her stock lower as vice president, despite her running an embarrassing campaign? What's your reaction to that? I'll start with RJ first.
My thoughts onto the top cop Kamala Harris is that, it's funny because she got used, and she got used by Joe Biden mostly because she's black or because of other things about her that she is, and so she got used. And this instance is that a president and his administration never leaks out something like this unless they want it to happen. This stuff doesn't just get out willingly, and especially now when the media is completely shilling for Uncle Joe. So it's funny about this, and we all know how terrible Kamala is. Like we covered it on, I believe it was the Roundtable last week, with was me, Nick, and I believe Savvy as well, and that the administration, especially Kamala's VP office, is having terrible relations with their actual workers and their actual staff. Like their staff fucking hate their guts, and they don't listen to their staff. Like a lot of this came out.
I had that article on me posted. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And so when all of this came out, Kamala's staff, they called her out. They said they wouldn't listen to her. All this came out because Vice President Kamala Harris went on her first foreign trip to Guatemala and many other places. And this was also talking about her going to the border when she was pressured to do so by people like Ted Cruz and some of the Republicans. And you had some good faith people saying, okay, why don't you go and see what happens, especially since you're the fucking czar, which Joe Biden made you and you haven't been there. So those are the arguments as well. And she wouldn't listen to her own staff. Her own staff wanted to plan for her to do this, and she's like, fuck, I'm not going to do it. And we discussed on the roundtable last week is that we shouldn't be surprised by this. Like, do you know Kamala's record as a district attorney in California, as an attorney general in California? Like, this is how she operates. She doesn't listen to her staff. She does whatever she wants to do. And yeah, I mean, and to be perfectly fair on this, like Joe Biden never likes Kamala. The reason why he picks Kamala is because of Wall Street, military-industrial complex. They say, look, Joe, you got to pick her. She's what we want, and they tried it. That's why she got 0 delegates, because she's such a shitty politician. So that's my take on Kamala. And K-Hivers can, they can just go somewhere else.
So this came out in CNN today. White House goes into damage control mode after reports of dysfunction in Kamala Harris's office. So someone from Kamala's staff was probably raising hell, pissed off at Biden team for leaking against her. I kind of want to turn this to Jackie, because we talked about this before on one of our shows, because we were discussing what the Democrats' plan was, and we had a disagreement because at first you was like, Biden's definitely going to be out in 2024. What's your thoughts on the current developments? Now that the Democrat establishment seem to be turning against Kamala? I just want to get your thoughts, Jackie.
They're the same. I don't think that Kamala was used. I think that Kamala was put in place by the Clinton-Obama faction of the Democratic Party. And I think what's happening is not what you guys think, where like they're going, oh, she can't win, we have to try to take her out. I think what's happening is Joe Biden's team is like, she's going to take us out, we got to take her out.
Interesting.
I don't think that it's such, I think that the leak was intentional, like you said, but I don't think that the leak is that the Democratic Party as a whole is against her. I think the Joe Biden faction is against her because, again, I still say Biden never wanted her in the first place. She was picked by Obama and Clinton. And Obama and Clinton probably still have her back. And just like they did with Clinton, when she didn't have a shot in hell of winning, they're going to back her until they fail. And then when they fail, they're going to blame racism and sexism. So I think this is Biden, the Biden administration. Maybe they decided, hey, we want to hold on to power for 4 more years. In which case, they don't want to hand it over to her. Because I still think her plan is to take over before his presidency ends. And maybe he doesn't want that. So he's trying to cut her out. That's what I think. I don't think that it's as clear cut as the whole of the Democratic, the whole of the Democrats are like not backing her. I think they're still backing her. And I think we'll find out we'll know for sure if either Hillary or Obama make some kind of comment on her either way. They'll either comment that she's so awesome, basically downplaying what was leaked, or they'll come out and say, they'll low-key diss her. If they low-key diss her, then I was wrong, and they are moving on. But if they come out and say something like she's so great, that's their play. They're letting you know, like, no, this is going forward. I don't think they're going to say anything right now. They're going to wait for it to blow over because they don't want it to seem like there's some kind of civil war in the DNC, which I don't think there really is. I think it's just the Biden presidency, like the Biden camp wanting to stay pro-Biden because they want to keep their jobs. Because make no mistake, Kamala's going to fire all your asses when she gets in there. And I think they know that. So I think it's just politicians playing politics. One more word on politicians playing politics. I've noticed in the comments, people are going on and on about the Green Party and MPP and which one's better. And they're arguing, quit playing party politics. The answer to ending the duopoly isn't necessarily adding more people to the duopoly? The answer is taking it to the streets in your own neighborhood. The answer is figuring out how to handle things like climate change or things like Medicare for all. We're not going to get it on the national level first. It's going to have to be like pot. We're going to have to go city by city, county by county, state by state. Start there. Quit worrying about this party or that party. If anything, look at the candidate. What is the candidate doing? Because like Carrie says, I think it's Carrie. Yeah, Carrie is the one who says it. It's not about what they say. It's about what they do. Look at how they voted. Look at what they did. Okay, that's what you got to pay attention to. And stop simping for politicians, just in general. Fight for the policies. Whoever aligns with those policies and doesn't just talk out of their ass like Kamala, somebody who actually stands for those policies, vote for that person when it comes time to vote. So I'm not discouraging you for voting, just saying stop with the team sports when it comes to politics. This isn't football. Go with the policies, not the politicians.
All right. So we have Afeni, RJ, and then I'm after RJ.
You know, I just want to add, Joe Biden is racist as hell. Joe Biden has been racist as hell. Like, Kamala, come on, man. You went down to Guatemala. You embarrassed the administration by telling all them Guatemalan people don't come. And everybody was shitting on y'all, even the liberal left, even the Biden and Kamala supporters. They were like, Kamala, why would you say that? You embarrassed the administration. So you don't think that he's going to throw your black ass under the bus first? He couldn't do it to Obama because Obama was his president. You see what I'm saying? But he still hates niggas. And no matter how much you try to denounce your blackness and move away from being black and all that shit, you're still a nigga to him. So he's going to treat you like one. And I'm sure that a lot of his racist ass staff that he hired, because Joe Biden is a racist, I'm sure a lot of them racist ass motherfuckers are going to back it as well, because it's easier to throw a black woman under the bus. And, you know, I like to say that Kamala Harris has access to blackness, not actually a black person because she don't act like it. Access to blackness. A person that is black passing, period. They're going to throw you under the fucking bus, sis. They're absolutely going to throw you under the bus. You're one of the most unpopular politicians of our time. Of course they're going to throw you under the bus in order to save themselves. Do I think that Joe Biden is mentally sound enough to fucking run in 2024? No. Do I think that they have the calculation, though, that if they try to run Kamala against whatever Tom Cotton, whatever Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump, whoever the fuck decides to run Josh Hawley, do they think that she's going to lose? Like that report said, abso-fucking-lutely. So they have to start propping up probably another representative black woman who they can say like, oh, well, you know, either it's probably going to be either like Stacey Abrams or one of those, you know, establishment ass black people, you know, that they, you know, have supported this whole time and that they know they can still use as a puppet. There might be the next route, but Kamala, like, her time has been done. Like, her time has been done. And they tried to force her on the American people, just like they tried to force Hillary on the American people. The only reason why y'all won was because people were real live, they hated Trump that much. If it was any other Republican, y'all would have lost, because it was two of the most unpopular politicians of all time running on one ticket yet again.
Yep, agreed. RJ?
Yeah, I do want to ask Jackie a question, because she did bring up a good point. And a lot of times we disagree on some stuff, and I go back and I'm like, oh, damn, she actually right. So my question to Jackie is like, how do you feel about this? Because if in your eyes, if like Kamala herself, like, you kind of defeated my claim about, you know, it being kind of her fault in this instance, like, well, who do you think Joe Biden could potentially replace if he wants to drop Kamala off the ticket? And you also saying that Kamala still has some support among, you know, black liberals. So how could Joe Biden really play this way of, okay, I want to drop Kamala, but who could you replace Kamala with that's more popular, which could keep that support among black people? Because we know before picking Vice President Kamala Harris, Joe Biden in the primary was struggling among black support, the worst since really Jimmy Carter. You know, so could he pick Stacey Abrams? Could he pick some other person? Like, How do you feel about that, Jackie?
I don't think it's going to be Abrams because she doesn't really have any political power. She doesn't have any experience. Remember, she lost her race. So you're not going to go for you're not going to choose a Veep that never had any kind of position. But as far as who he wants to pick, I think who he wanted was the same person he wanted before. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Amy Klobuchar?
Thank you. Yes, Amy Klobuchar. That's who he would pick. And he would arrogantly say, I already have the black vote. I don't need Kamala for that. Because I think he genuinely believes it. As far as, again, I still say that Kamala, he didn't pick Kamala. Kamala was picked for him by essentially the DNC, which is run behind the scenes by Obama and Clinton. Now, I still say the Obama and Clinton faction still support Kamala. So if he were to choose to run without their support, he would lose because he wouldn't have the DNC backing him. And the DNC would 100% back Kamala. So the only way I see Kamala not getting their support is if she does something that is like far and beyond, because all of them have said shit that we would have canceled them for. But she has to say something like, basically, she would have to say, like, we have to dismantle the military or something. She said something like that, okay, she's gone. But I still think the DNC is backing her. But I think Biden would get Klobuchar. I just don't think the DNC would back that at all.
Can I add something real quick? Because I saw this story. Because I don't know if a lot of you guys remember. I remember I covered this on my show a long time ago, like when I first got started. One of the people that was speaking out against Kamala Harris for being vice president, and it was reported by Politico. I'm trying to find a source, but I found something else to back it up, was Joe Biden. Apparently, Joe Biden played a giant role behind the scenes of trying to get someone else other than Kamala, and that was back what Jackie set up. It wasn't Biden's decision. I guarantee you that Joe Biden and Joe Biden didn't want that choice, but Kamala has so much favor by the establishment, their hand pretty much forced. Now I'm gonna pass it to Sabby here, but I was trying to find the source I was thinking about, but this kind of back up what I was saying. This is from May this year. It said new report reveals death of Joe Biden's rage toward Kamala Harris during 2020 primaries. So this is something that was widely reported. Jill Stein never liked Kamala Harris, especially ever since Kamala Harris called out Joe Biden on that big, I think it was the first or maybe second debate where she called out Joe Biden and pretty much called him Jim Crow Joe in front of millions of people. Joe Biden never forgave her for that. But eventually, I don't know. Like, I would love to know exactly who convinced them, but I agree with Jackie. It definitely wasn't their choice. But I'll go back to Brina.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys something about Kamala Harris. I'm gonna show you something really quick, because when I tell you, this is something that Jen Perlman and I agree a lot on. There really aren't two parties. It's one corporate party. And to prove that to you, I'm just going to show you how this circle works. So as much as Kamala Harris says all these bad things about Donald Trump, did you know that Donald Trump gave $5,000 to Harris's campaign in September 2011 and $1,000 in February 2013? His daughter, Ivanka Trump, gave the Harris campaign $2,000 in 2014. Now, why did I want to point that out to you? Because as I said before, and Nick has talked about this as well, it's one big club. These people are like, they may be part of different parties, but they're elite, and the wealthy people back wealthy people, regardless if they are Republican, regardless if they are Democrat. It's one club.
Well, Ivanka Trump and Chelsea Clinton are famously longtime friends. I mean, Trump and the Clintons was friends for a very long time. All these people know each other. They all have the same interests. They all went to the same schools. That's why you saw Kamala Harris. She was giving Lindsey Graham high five on the Senate. Do you guys remember that on the Senate floor? The same people they smear as being traitors to this country. They are friends with. They'll go out to lunch with. Chuck Schumer is friends with Mitch McConnell. That's well reported. Democrats say Mitch McConnell one of the most evilest, worst influence in modern American politics, but they're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Class loyalty above all. That's why Joe Biden defended Trump in court. Class loyalty.
I'll pass it to Meg, I think, is next.
Yeah, so going off of that, so I've seen a couple of comments like, yeah, they all did hang out on Epstein's Island. Clinton, Trump, they all definitely were hanging out with Epstein. And someone else has said something. Where did it go? Oh, Steve Manchin. Another of Kamala Harris's contributors to her campaigns. And
Steve
Kamala Harris. Oh. What did I say?
You said Manchin.
Oh, yes. Is there really a difference? Really?
Not really.
Yeah, Steve Mnuchin. Big donator to Kamala Harris. She refused to prosecute him when he was illegally foreclosing on people, particularly people of color. Refused to prosecute him. And what happened? He became our Secretary of Treasury. Because she didn't do her job, even though her staff was telling her to prosecute him. So we ended up with him as Secretary of Treasury because she didn't do her goddamn job. Okay? So we'll start with that. So, I don't know. It's not letting me put this up. Savvy, can you put up the article? I have it as share screen. I don't know why it's not coming up.
Let me see. Oh, it may not let you share it because you're not the host. You want to tweet it to me? And I'll put it up. Okay.
Sorry. Okay. But yeah, let me 2 seconds.
I got Twitter open anyway.
All right, let me quickly copy.
And while Meg does that, FYI, like Nancy Pelosi and her family, they were friendly with the Kennedys. All these people roll together, guys. This is not by accident.
Okay, so I shared it with you, Savvy. It's in the FHL DM. Alright. So the other thing is that as I know someone who, like that same brother who works in law enforcement. He's in DC and he hears things. This is not a secret. So that Kamala Harris's office is rife with dissent, like, is not a healthy environment. And apparently this is the same thing that happened with her campaign as well. It was just not a healthy environment. A lot of the people who are surround Kamala Harris in order to protect her, they are making really bad decisions, and the staffers are really upset about it. Like, they feel like they're not being listened to and that it's a hostile environment. And so my brother has told me that is the case, that a lot of people know that her office is a mess, but so is the whole administration. And he said to me, quote, that he thought Trump's administration was a mess. Biden's administration is just as much of a mess. And I'm sure by putting out articles like this, I'm sure Biden's trying to get the heat off of himself for having such a trash administration. He's trying to put some of it on Kamala. Not that Kamala is not open to, criticism, because this is clearly true. And I think that is even what was so egregious to me in this article is something that Simone Sanders said. So if you want to scroll down to that. Simone Sanders, basically in defense of Tina Flournoy, who is her chief of staff, basically said, yeah, right here. So Black women like me would not have the opportunity to work in politics without Tina. People are cowards to do it this way. You are not making rainbows and bunnies all day. What I hear is that people have hard jobs, and I'm like, welcome to the club. We have created a culture where people, if there is anything anyone would like to raise, or avenues, but in a lot of ways, one of the things that she's saying is like, just be grateful you got a job. Without Tina, we wouldn't have a job, so just be fucking grateful. Like, shut your mouths. Oh, you have a tough job? Oh, it's hard? Shut your mouth. Be grateful you got a job. It's basically what Simone Sanders is trying to say. So basically the idea of, oh, we can't criticize Kamala. We can't criticize her leadership because she's Kamala Harris. Just be fucking grateful that it's a black woman who's being hard on you instead of a white man. It's the black faces in high places argument. Just be fucking grateful. So I'll stop there.
All right, we
Surprise,
have
surprise.
yeah, it's a hot
Right,
mess.
Savvy. Only thing I'm about to say is surprise, surprise. The capitalist treats their workers horribly. That's what you can expect. That's what shit libs are. But sorry, go ahead, Sabrina.
Yeah, it's funny too. It's coming from Simone Sanders because Biden didn't even consider her good enough to give her the press secretary job. So her of all people, we really should not be listening to.
Yeah.
Simone
lucky that-
Sanders is the sellout's sellout.
I have
don't know. All she does.
my brother has some words about her too, just FYI.
Seriously, like it makes perfect sense that she would comment, "At least you have a job," because that heifer will simp for anybody who will give her $1.
Mhm.
Except for socialists.
I just
Except
know
for
Kamala.
Said it.
Well, no, she did. She started out with Bernie.
Mhm.
I just know Kamala's
In
Staff is
2016.
lucky
Yeah.
that Kamala didn't have like a stapler nearby. Because I know there's other senators. If their staff started talking, boy, their staplers would have been flying. That's how the neoliberal women girl bosses do it.
Got to bob and weave, baby. Got to bob and weave.
I at least gotta throw that in because it'll clover chart you. There would be no leaks like this. You get hit with a comb real quick.
He eats with a salad with the comb. Yeah.
We have
Who's got their stapler ready? Get that stapler ready. She's chucking across the room at you.
I have a stapler that it's red. It's a swing line.
we have 5 minutes left before RJ goes on. You guys got anything you want to plug that's coming up this week?
Big announcement. We have I have Katie Hopper coming on Monday. Other than that, just stay tuned for RJ's show, and we upload every single day. I think tomorrow's Nerdologics. Jackie tomorrow. So the point is, if you're enjoying this marathon we're doing today, stay tuned because we want to hit you guys with as much content as possible. That's all I have to say. Super excited to have Katie come on. Max Blumenthal is tentative later this week. We're aiming for probably Saturday, I'm thinking. So yeah, we got some great guests coming up. So for all the people that are watching now, all the newcomers, stay tuned because we got a lot of stuff coming up. Who's next?
If you live in DC, there's a 4th of July protest in 30 minutes. Come outside.
Who's next? Anybody?
Just stay tuned. You got RJ coming up. I'm on at 9, and then Nerdolitics at 10.
I'm after RJ.
Oh yeah,
so
Nick.
next,
Sorry,
so.
Nick. Yes,
No, it's all
sorry,
good.
Nick.
It's all good.
Nope.
We're gonna do a deeply serious political discussion at 7 p.m. Central.
No, after RJ is the reparations.
Oh yeah,
Isn't
right.
it?
Okay,
Yeah,
I guess you're probably right.
RJ,
You're probably right.
RJ, reparations, Nick.
And then Nick. Yeah.
Okay, you're probably right. You're right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Still, stay tuned.
Next week, so this Thursday for the roundtable, I will not be present. I'm having surgery, surprise. So yeah, I won't be there. But I will have a show on Sunday. I'll be speaking to somebody who is very. They know a lot about Kobe. And his name is Kobe, and he knows a lot about this situation with Julian Assange, and we'll be having discussions about that. And that's something that needs to be talked about more on the left. So we'll be talking about Julian Assange next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesomeness. Jackie.
Later tonight, I'm gonna be doing because I think we have a slot left, like at the end of the night. So I might be doing a Q&A. So if you have a question for me, either hit us up on Ko-fi or Patreon. The link is scrolling across your screen right now, and ask me the question, and I will answer it then.
RJ?
Yeah, just tune in a couple minutes. I'll be going live with the Political Matrix also known as Marcus Cage, will be talking about the history of the 4th of July, as well as talking about our racist ass presidents around that time. So prepare to have fun with us.
I got everybody. I want to make sure everybody had a chance to. Okay, cool. I just want to remind everyone that we are slowly, moving away from Patreon. So if you want to support FHL, if you look at the bottom of the screen, co-feed.com, FHL Network, that's the best way that you can support us. And other than that, this week I'll be interviewing Professor Richard Wolff Wednesday. I forget the time. I got to check that. Oh my God. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. And please hang on for RJ's show. He's in line next. So other than that, peace out.
Deuces. Yay.
Stay safe.
So mine is 7 p.m. Central. I keep getting confused.
So
It's still
8 p.m.
Central.
So 5? Yeah, so
We're
artist
still
show,
live.
reparation,
we're
and
still
my
live,
show.
right?
We're still live.
Sorry, Nick. Hold on.
It's all right. They need to know too. It's all right.
You're at 4 p.m. real time, 7 p.m. Eastern, so you'd be 6 p.m. Central.
Okay, that's fine. They need to hear that too.
But
Stay tuned.
7 Eastern is reparations. He's on it.
Yeah, 7 Eastern.
Oh, I'm
is
sorry,
my
I
time.
was reading the reparations. You're right. I was reading the wrong one. You are on at 5 p.m. Sorry, 8 p.m. Eastern. So 7 p.m. your time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I just need to know my time. That's all that matters.
Yeah, 7 p.m. your time is when you go on, but it's at 7 p.m. Eastern is when we do the reparations panel.
These time zones, man. The time zones. All right, I got to unlive so RJ can jump in.
That makes it sound like you're murdering us.